It's important and historical for a lot of countries because of the provisions that it has, especially for my Latin American colleagues where you have environmental defenders being killed. But for the Caribbean, it's really historical because it's going to raise standards in terms of accessibility to information, because unfortunately we don't have a good history of sharing information. So for the Caribbean, that's one of the main reasons why it's important, because it creates not only the access to information but a space for you to really meaningfully participate in decision making and not just seem to be a bother to the whole process, but instead you're contributing towards sustainable development in your country. So that's why it's really historical and important for us in the Caribbean. So St. Lucia has signed on, and we're hoping that we'll be able to ratify soon. Unfortunately, I can't say when this will happen, but from all indications, the government shows that they want people to be aware and to sort of demand for this. So the Trust has been working closely with the Department of Sustainable Development to raise awareness across the island, from school children to various communities. And so we're hoping that once we've done sufficient in terms of raising awareness, that the next step would be for government to show greater political will to ratify this agreement. But even though it may not be ratified, the National Trust will be implementing as far as possible what it can, because as I mentioned, it is just really historical, and the provisions, it says a lot for our advancement in the Caribbean. So we're hoping for ratification, but whether or not it's done right now, we can use it as a tool to implement the tenets of Principle 10, which is access to information, participation, and justice. Cooperation is really important, and in terms of the Caribbean, there are two bodies that could really get involved to make it more efficient. So you have the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, and they're actually based in St. Lucia. In the earlier part of the negotiations, they were instrumental in sharing the information across the Eastern Caribbean. When I say Eastern Caribbean, I'm speaking of St. Lucia, Grenada, Dominica, and these tiny islands, in that part of the world. And so their involvement is very important because they look at various issues, environmental and otherwise. The other agency or the other group would be the CARICOM, as the Caribbean communities, and they're based in Guyana, and they look at other countries in the Caribbean, including Jamaica and Trinidad and the more developed, so to speak, Caribbean countries. So cooperation is important, and these two organizations would be really key to sort of leading the way to ensure that the governments within the region place Escazú high on the priority.